So what we're looking at here is Power Automate, and most of you might not know already. You might have Power Automate already from your app launcher, and Power Automate is right here. So if you go to your app launcher, if you go to office.com and you go to your app launcher, you'll see Power Automate and Microsoft Forms. In fact, you might even see Power Apps if your IT folks have given you that. As you can see, I have full control and I see a lot of stuff that's available in my organization. So this is the workflow. This is a really cool workflow because it tells you the run history. It tells you all the connections you're using, whether they're Microsoft connections or not Microsoft connections. It could be SAP, Salesforce, Workday, MailChimp, Box. It could be your on-premise connection. It could be a custom connector you create. So, and it allows you to connect to it using your authenticated credentials, or it allows you to put it in. It shows you the owners here. It shows you the run history, what happened to it. And it shows you when it was created. You have the ability to see analytics on it. And this is kind of what a Power Automate flow, but let's go deeper into the Power Automate flow itself, okay? And I just want to show you the interface of how easy it is to start building these flows. This one's a little bit more of a complex one, but you could start building these flows from these templates on the left-hand side. There's really nice templates that already exist where you could start building your flows. In our case, we wanted to kick off the flow when a response was submitted from the Microsoft form. And all we're doing is giving the form ID. We're doing some parsing on some variables there, and we're getting some information. And this is where we add that information from the form into our SharePoint list. Then there's an approval that has to happen from HR. HR has to go, or IT has to go and do an approval once somebody is requested to be onboarded, to be able to input some more information. There's some conditions that happen there. We want to update the item to be approved or rejected, because sometimes we might reject it as an executive, right? So the executive gets prompted in Microsoft Teams and their email. And then what we do is we actually go and loop through all the approvals that are out there and update the SharePoint list to say that that person's being approved with some information. Okay, so this is a Power Automate flow, which basically interacts with that data source we talked about. Now, the next Power Automate flow I'm going to show you is actually a Power Automate where it actually goes and creates the account in your Azure Active Directory. Because why do we need our IT administrators to manually go and create these accounts in our Active Directory or Azure Active Directory when there's an automation within Power Automate that does this? So this goes and parses some information from what was submitted and does it on a nightly basis, gets the information from the SharePoint form and the SharePoint list. It goes and passes all the information. And then what it does is it goes and loops through, because we have different companies at our organization, and based on the company, in this case, it's CreoSpark, it's going to go and create the user in Active Directory. Okay, so this is the actual action that's connected to Active Directory. It does stuff like apply the manager, go look it up, and get approval. It prompts for this information from the manager in Teams. It assigns tasks. It does a lot of stuff in this workflow. I'm not going to go through all the stuff, but you get the idea. It's almost unlimited possibilities as to your workflow and your business process. Okay. So now the next thing I wanted to show you as part of this process is the onboarding. So this is kind of our offboarding list. So just the same as our onboarding, we have a form where HR or a manager will fill out where somebody has to be offboarded. And sometimes it is required, and then this needs to happen right away, right? So why, if somebody needs to be offboarded right away in the middle of a night or a certain time, you don't need to go and call help desk or call IT or go into Azure Active Directory, go disable their account, change their password. Why should you have to do that when you can do an automation? So we built that same type of form, but then we kind of put a workflow around that to be able to disable the account. And the data source for this is in Microsoft SharePoint or Databricks. So you can see the status of that user is disabled. And this workflow, same type of thing, is a nice workflow that you can build in Power Automate Flow to be able to go and offboard the user. So the actual action that happens is that all we're doing is calling the AD action of that user to be able to set the account to be disabled. And there's another step to send an email and send a Teams message for approval, as well as change the password. We also do that as well when somebody's offboarded and remove them from all the groups.